Welcome to the Tarryn Reeves Show, where your journey to empowerment takes center stage. I'm your host, Tarryn Reeves, best-selling author and publishing expert. Together, we'll dive into the hearts and minds of visionaries, disruptors, and trailblazing leaders to explore the most compelling and thought-provoking ideas in life, business, and marketing. Let's inspire, impact, and ignite. This is the Tarryn Reeves Show. Welcome to another episode of the Tarryn Reeves Show. Today, I am joined by Patricia Lindner, all the way from Germany. Patricia, I'm so excited to have you with me. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Tarryn. So great to be on this show with you. Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Now, Patricia is one of my authors who wrote with us inside Corporate Dropouts. She is a multi-passionate soul alchemist and creative instigator. She inspires and invites accomplished women and men to discover, integrate, and utilize their creative and intuitive power, both for their private life and successful career. She believes that life is a canvas and that everyone is able to co-create an extraordinary and fulfilled life beyond outer success. Also referred to as travel guide for the soul, her holistic anti-coaching approach ensures logic-defying instant results and revelations. Besides highly customized one-on-one experiences, she also hosts international retreats that ensure joy, adventure, and transformation on many levels. Like I said, she resides in Germany with her husband and 2 children. When she isn't preparing or hosting transformational experiences for her clients, she is writing, traveling, or creating art. Patricia, what a beautiful, expansive biography. I'm so excited to chat more to you. Before we dive into various exciting things, tell me, for those who are listening or watching who have not yet read Corporate Dropouts, which is the book that you wrote in, can you give us a sneak peek of what your chapter was about?
Yeah, sure, Tarryn. I can do that. So my chapter is about my journey from being a teacher and a teacher's trainer in a leading position to dropping out of the system. And this happened not on purpose. This happened because my body was telling me to do so. Mm-hmm. And I share about the ups and downs and the symptoms and how I really could step out of the system and create something new on my own terms, in a creative way, in a liberated way. And I'd say even in a much wilder way. So that's it in short.
I love that. I think we could all do with a lot more wildness in our lives. If COVID decides to take over the world, I'm going off grid, living in my loincloth in the trees. Leave me be.
Super. Right. I love that idea.
Maybe you can come join me, come visit, bring some food.
Absolutely.
Tell me, Patricia, what was it like working as a teacher? I'm assuming it was in Germany.
I was working as a teacher for 17 and a half years. And the last 3 years was in this leadership position as a teacher's trainer. And I always loved the work. Yeah. Because, no, this is not true. I didn't love it always. Most of the time, I loved the work because I loved inspiring kids, and most of the time worked with pupils between age 11 and 16. And so I love being the creative instigator for them, being the soul alchemist in some way and not being just a teacher. There was so much that they really took on and accepted outside of just the teaching. And as I was a middle school teacher, I was partly something like a parent for them. And that's what I liked. I liked doing trips with them. I like traveling. And so that's what I did with kids and showed them around. And so I loved it most of the time, but I didn't like the way that I felt restricted in a system that I needed to follow the rules. Some of the bosses, if I want to put it that way, they said, Miss Lindner, you are a teacher and you are not here to do the psychological background work. You're not here to do this and that. So they just forced me to do my teacher's job And then I was so happy when I got this position in this leadership area of teaching other teachers, because I thought this is my opportunity to change the system. There was this desire in my heart to change this black and white system into something really colorful. And then I needed to figure out and find out and accept that I'm this paradise bird amongst blackbirds that don't want to change the system because it is this traditional system and no one can change that. And that's the way it is. And that's not for me.
Yep, I'm sure you did make a difference while you were there. It's such a tender age, that 11 to 16-year-old. Those kids were very, very lucky to have you. And I'm sure you did make a difference. The system, I think, will gradually change. What are your thoughts on that?
I hope so. I had this dream of being part of a system change from the outside, because I think, and I had a conversation with a fellow teacher last week, and he is in a leadership position as well, and he thinks about dropping out. And so he contacted me because he heard about the book. And so he's a German teacher, and he said, you wrote a chapter about the dropout. And so I'm thinking about this because I want to change the system, but I don't know if this works from the inside. Maybe we have to get out of the system and change it from the outside, because there is some strange vibes going on when you are part of the system. They take you for granted and they just put you in this box of, this is the way she is and this is the way he is. And so if you come from the outside, you might be able to change it.
It's certainly an interesting point of view, and one definitely worth pondering. I am a big advocate and believer that single individuals can create change. And the way you create change is like you just did, right? So you wrote in this book, Corporate Dropouts, and somebody who was in a similar situation to what you used to be in has now reached out to you and said, hey, asking for guidance. What do we do? How do we change? So you already have made a difference from the outside by lighting a light in somebody else, right? And then they will light a light in somebody else. And then there's too many lights to ignore, if you like. So I am very excited by that. That's exciting. What do you think then was your biggest time from your learning in that industry? Do you have some words of wisdom from people who are in those positions and are perhaps considering changing, transitioning, dropping out?
So I think that I learned a lot in those 17 years. I never was someone who was a rule follower. So I always tried to do things in my own way, but I needed to follow some of the rules, of course. So a big learning is that it is so important to really see the kids the way they really are, and to not condition them so much that they need to go to the psychologist when they are 40 and have all the stuff to work on. So I think it is a good thing to look at the kids and really see them the way they are and let them grow the way they are, because they are so wise. But we as the society oftentimes put pressure and patterns on them so that we create the same society over and over again. And I'm so happy to see that kids are the ones to change the world. And so this is a big learning. I think there's so much wisdom in what kids know and do if you allow them to do so.
Yep, my daughter is definitely my biggest teacher, and also my biggest headache sometimes. I'm like, why have you got so much attitude? What's going on? But sometimes they come out with these just wise words of wisdom, and it just stops you in your tracks, and you're like, I never thought of it that way. Or rather, I forgot to think that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of all the conditioning that happens. I love it. Such wise words. So tell me, you transitioned out of corporate and ruffled your bird of paradise wings and blossomed into this beautiful creative person that I see before me today. Tell me about your business and who you're working with, what you're doing.
Yeah. So my business is about changing people's lives. So I mainly work with women, but I also work with men, and they all have in common that they have this underlying perfectionist trait. And they work very hard, maybe even up to suffering from burnout symptoms, body symptoms. And sometimes they feel like they need to change their career. But most of the time we end up working on completely different things. And it's not about the change of career, but it's about insourcing their validation of who they are, letting everything go that does not serve them any longer, and also listening to their body wisdom. So that's what I do. It lets them see themselves in a new light, appreciate and validate who they are. And most of my clients, they talk about peace and calm and balance when they work with me.
Yeah, but I can really relate to that. If any of you have read my stories, my writings, and I share about this very publicly, I had a massive burnout. So I am that A-list, that A personality perfectionist, recovering perfectionist, I like to say. But holding yourself to these impossible standards and coming from a culture, I'm from Africa originally, that is very much work hard, 2 days off a weekend, then you die kind of society. And I'm completely not like that. I am the wild, free spirit, right? But I tried so hard to fit into this perfect thing and create the perfect life and the perfect career and earn enough money and whatever to look the perfect way. I used to be so ashamed of my curly hair because I was like, oh, it's too wild. It's too out there. And I used to straighten it and all of these sorts of things, try and wear high heels, which for the love of God, whoever invented those, I cannot walk in them. They are cruel devices. Hats off to any woman who can walk in those because they ain't for me. But I ended up burning out and I had this horrible rash breakout on my face. I was due to get married in a couple of months. I then got shingles on my back and I lost a whole heap of weight. And for those of you who have met me in person, I am tiny. I'm like a little fairy leprechaun thing. So for me to lose even more weight, it was horrific. It was such an experience. And my body was talking to me and I just did not want to listen. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Of course, I had so many thoughts when I listened to what you just talked about. And so just, by the way, I love your curly hair. And
I love it now too, but it took me 32 years to fall in love with my hair.
It is so beautiful and wild, and I love that. And yes, talking about the body issues and body talking to someone, all the bodies talk to us. So my body talks to me. And now I have to really go to a vulnerable place because I said I left the corporate because of my body telling me the way. And I even can integrate things that we talked about. My son, he was the one to tell me that I was really living the same pattern again. Even though I left the corporate, now I found myself doing the same over and over again, sitting in front of the computer, not taking weekends off, doing the same thing and harming myself and overriding inner cycles. And so you talked about your skin issues. I have had a horrible time with rosacea. This was almost 2 years of a severe skin issue that was really swelling, redness, bumpiness in my face. And no one could help me curing this condition. And I think I'm a work in progress, and so is everyone. When not listening to the body, we risk a lot, not only the health, but also the mental health, and not only health things, but also the happiness part, the joy in life. And that's what my son said. He said, you're working so hard. Are you earning that much money? You work all day long and all night long. And so I realized, and skin issues came back. And digestive issues came back. So I really needed to step back and re-listen to my body and really commit to paying attention to this temple that I have in this 3D reality, that it is so wise to really tell me about the next step and tell me about what is good for me. So this is what I want to pass on to other people, to really listen to their bodies and not take them for granted, but take them as this wise keeper of wisdom.
Yeah. And I think it's also really important to just highlight here the fact that we are all work in progresses, and our patterns are so sneaky. We think we've done the work. We think we've got it right. And then all of a sudden you fall into this area of complacency, if you like, in terms of that connection to your body or your inner wisdom. And sometimes it takes someone else, in this case, your son, to go, hey, your check engine light's on. And you're like, oh, I see.
Exactly.
And you can take that step back. And I think it's really important to note that that is normal. That is normal human behavior, and to not be too hard on ourselves when that does happen, and to just love ourselves back to that place of healthiness and balance and connection and creativity, and know that we are probably going to stumble again, and that it's probably going to happen again. And then we just pick ourselves up and we try again and we try again. And each time you do that, it becomes easier. But it's so important to be listening to our body. And when someone else points it out to us, to go, hey, maybe that's true. And what are we going to do about that? So I'm glad that your son was able to point that out to you. What a wise young man. Yes. I love that. So I know that you have a bit of an alternative, colorful way of working, as you are the anti-coaching approach. Tell me more about that term of use that you are using, because I think it's so evocative and so attractive to hear this play on language, this dance on the language. Tell me more.
So first of all, I don't want to put myself in a box and sell. That's the same thing that I don't want to do with the clients I work with. And for me, the most important thing is not to offer them a step-by-step coaching method that I created, because I know the way it works and I am the wise person that you need to be depending on. So I think my anti-coaching process or way of working with people is highly customizing what they need and then offering them something that is an activation to their, I don't know if I put it the right way, it activates their own power, their healing power. It activates their own perspective of looking at themselves in a new way. So I don't do it for them. I don't pretend to be the wise teacher, but it is something that gives them light bulb moments over and over again. And I feel they need to go wild and crazy and free, and they should really return to self. So it is a revolution that I want to pass on to people. So I don't know if this answered your question.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. The revolution of self. I can see it now. How exciting. So what I'm hearing, Patricia, is that you are the guide, not the guru.
Yeah.
And I think that this is really important, because there is no such thing as someone outside of yourself who has all of the answers. There just is not. You are born with all of the answers. The purpose of a coach or a guide or a facilitator or whatever you want to call them is to help you see past your own blocks, not to do it for you. And I think that's the way that you described it was so beautiful. Now, who do you love to work with? I know that you said you mostly work with women and sometimes men. Who is like your dream person to work with?
Yeah, so I have this dream person on my mind. So I love working with women that are spiritually open, that are heart-centered, that are ready to do the next step and go crazy and embrace who they are. They love organic food, for example. They are open to new ways of healing, of guidance. And so I have this type of person on my mind. Actually, she's one of my clients, and we talked about the big finish of our work together. So she has been working for me for a couple of months now. After half a year, we have this goal, and this is again anti-coaching. of going on a solo retreat together. So she is getting this celebration retreat in a beautiful place. So I love people that are open to that as well, to really return to joy, to bliss, to passion, to power, to imperfection. And so, as I am someone who loves traveling, I love working with people who are also open to travel to a place. I think the most important thing is they need to be ready, they need to be committed, and they need to be open-minded to see themselves and my work in a different light. So I'm not the strategist.
Yeah, it sounds like so much fun, Patricia. It really does. Now, tell me, what's next for you? What are you up to, be it business or personal? What have you got going on in the world, Patricia?
Yeah. So I have two ideas when you ask this question. So one is personal. So we are about to build a full wooden house. And my big dream is to either put a wooden small cabin or a yurt into our big garden.
That's so fun. Yes.
And so as I only work remotely, I might want to include work with people that are locals or that want to travel to my yurt. That is a healing, creative yurt. And so this is what I'm up to in a personal and a bit of a business way. So because this is really a big piece of land, and maybe even we are able to have animals there, more animals. We have 3 kids, but maybe expand this a bit and do more creative stuff there. And the other thing is, as we talked about the skin condition and skin issues and also the body that talks, I thought about focusing more on people that suffer from either mental or physical issues like rosacea, and really help them on a very different holistic healing path of healing rosacea without all the antibiotics, the laser treatments, the tons of dollars spent on cosmetics that are the magical cure and in the end that don't work. So I have a couple of great ideas on how to heal rosacea holistically and become the own healer. So I think this is a passion project of mine, and I might want to focus on this a little bit.
Oh, that sounds so fun. I am so coming to your creative yurt. That sounds like the perfect holiday for me. So when that happens, drop me a line. I'm so coming to Germany.
Sure.
Now, you've written your first ever chapter, the first time your work has been published with us here at Four Eagles Publishing, Inside Corporate Dropouts. Has it whet your appetite perhaps for a solo book coming out in the future?
Absolutely, Tarryn. I would love to do that. I thought about being part of another multi-author book project, and there is something or someone inside of me that tells me that I am also ready to write a solo book because I have so many ideas that want me to show up as the thought leader, the provocative, wide thought leader in my, I wanted to say niche, but I don't want to use the word niche. So I really want to share. In your playground. This is nice, in my playground. And so I really would love to put something together in a provocative, mind and thought-provoking, I don't know how to put, pioneer book, a pioneer.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So exciting. Watch this space, you guys. Patricia is on fire. She's coming along. Now tell me, what was it like working with me and the team here at Four Eagles Publishing as your first writing experience?
So I am still blown away by the work you did, nourishing that I received, the guidance that I got. And I need to say that this was not just a work of becoming a published author. This was so much more. And I realized this just last week when I contemplated on this whole journey together with you and all the other amazing women. It was an upgrade, an expansion inside of me, being more self-confident in so many ways, having the opportunity to figure out more of who I am and embrace this, even though this sometimes is a little difficult, but it gave me so much more than just, and this is not to miscredit the best-selling status, but it gave me so much more. It gave me the container. It gave me revelation, community, support, friendship, and a breakthrough in my own potential. I want to put it that way.
Oh, that makes me so, so joyous to hear, Patricia, because this is what it's about. Okay. People think that they come in and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to be a best-selling author and it's going to be amazing. And yes, that is absolutely true. But the magic happens in the transformational, cataclysmic writing container and journey that we go on. And I like to keep that on the hush hush with when people are coming in. I don't often word it that way because what people think they want and what they actually need are two different things a lot of the time. And I like to leave that as the cherry on top, the surprise, and it takes a few weeks, sometimes even months to integrate when you suddenly look up and you're like, I feel different. I feel expanded. I feel less imposter syndrome. I feel more myself, more grounded, more awake to who I really am. And that gives you that confidence, that platform from which to step into the even next level of you and the next level of you. And maybe it's not a stepping into and a stepping up. Perhaps it's more of a remembering and a coming home to your true self. It is my most favorite part of the job. This is like the whole reason why I do what I do. And I'm so happy that you have come out the other end and are still coming out the other end and still integrating and have received all of that thus far. Thank you for sharing. That means a lot. Now, enough about me. Tell me, where can the people listening and watching find you and your amazing work?
So, of course, people can go to my website, which is www.patricialindner.com. So pay attention to the second N, because this is a bit difficult for English-speaking people.
Yes.
And there they can also grab my 15-minute free human design reading, which is, I think, to give them a little insight into their true potential. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, not so much, but I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Amazing. I will pop those links into the show notes and comments below this video so that people can just click on it and come and find you. Now, if any of you are listening and you're thinking, I want a bit of whatever's going on over there, then of course, go and find Patricia. And if you would like to write in a multi-author book project, or perhaps even write your own solo book, then please come and play with us at Four Eagles Publishing. We would love to have you. We are passionate about amplifying your voice and your message exactly as it is so that we can create ripple effects of impact and inspiration across the globe. We are at foureaglespublishing.com. And of course, if you haven't read Corporate Dropouts yet, what are you even doing with your life, honestly? Make sure that you go and grab a copy of Corporate Dropouts. It is available in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover from Amazon, or perhaps you know of someone who would love to read that book. It is not a book about bad-mouthing corporate at all. It is very much a book of inspiration, tips, wisdom, and really soul-nourishing connection, whether you thrive in corporate and maybe you're just looking for a change into a different area, or maybe you do want to drop out and start your own business. Either way, you will find some value in this book. So I hope that you go and read it. And if you love it, which you will, please leave us a review on Amazon. Thank you so much for being here today, Patricia. It was such a lovely conversation. I so enjoy bathing in your glorious light, and I look forward to coming to play in your creative yurt one day.
Super. Thank you, Tarryn, for having me. Thank you for the amazing conversation.
My pleasure. Speak soon. Bye. That's a wrap on today's episode. If you love the insights and inspiration, don't let it end here. Hit subscribe to stay connected and turn your visions into reality alongside our community of changemakers. I'm Tarryn Reeves. Thank you for joining me. And remember, your story has power. See you in the next episode.